Alright, what's up guys? PeterJaguars here again. Welcome to our 2021 NFL Playoff Bracket predictions. The road to Super Bowl 55 in Tampa is on, and another change in what's already been an atypical NFL season. The playoff bracket expanded from 12 teams to 14, so an additional game on each side in the wildcard round, going to add some extra excitement here. We're now in our 7th straight season doing this series, the longest standing one on YouTube. The OG's back here with the annual upload. Hope you guys are as jazzed up as I am. And as far as I know, still the only person to do a full playoff bracket correct. We did it in 2017, getting every single game. We'll be going for that here, even with the additional games on tap. But without further ado, we've got lots of football to cover, so let's hop into it. We'll kick things off in the top left of the bracket here with the 5-seed Baltimore Ravens traveling to Tennessee to take on the AFC South champion Titans, able to nab it from the Colts last minute. And these teams played in the playoffs last year, where Tennessee went into Baltimore and upset a Ravens team that had cruised through the regular season. The Ravens kind of up and down to start this year, but really bringing it together down the stretch. And I do think they can get downhill just as well as Tennessee if they can build a lead. So what team can get on the front foot early? Very important here, but I am going to go with the Ravens to, this year convert their fourth downs, not have the tipped interceptions, unlucky plays, and jump ahead to get through to the divisional round. Next, it's an AFC North divisional matchup as the Browns end their playoff drought, last in the playoffs in 2002, and they'll go play the Steelers in back-to-back weeks. Did win in Week 17, but Big Ben and some of the other key Steelers players were rested for that one. It was still a pretty tight game, and while these teams aren't dramatically different on paper, I do think that additional rest with the de facto bye week and just a little bit more on the defensive end of the ball is going to give the Steelers the nod to move ahead. So the Colts are the team in the AFC that's beneficiaries of them adding the extra wild card as they bump Miami from the 7th spot, but the Bills are the team that stands to lose the most from the adjustment in the format, is they would normally have a bye, 13-3, with one of the losses being an absurd Hail Mary to DeAndre Hopkins. You realize that this Bills team would often be tops in their conference. They do have to play a first round matchup here. They're going to outpace Indianapolis, I think, relatively reasonably, and jump ahead here to take on the Steelers. Quickly, before we move to the NFC on the right, should make a reminder that the NFL playoff bracket is not linear. It reseeds each round, and so if I had taken Indianapolis to pull off the upset, they'd be the ones traveling to Kansas City. And also, if you have the 2 beating the 7, but the 6 beating the 3, it would be them who goes and plays the number 1 team as opposed to the winner of the 5v4. Let's move on to that 5v4 in the NFC, as Washington's able to back into an NFC East championship with a losing record, but you gotta love the stories of Alex Smith and Ron Rivera. They're putting together a stout football team, the football team are. I'm just not sure that they're quite ready to take down Tom Brady and this Bucs squad. So even if these teams are heading in opposite directions, we're all going to roll along with the Bucs. Much of the focus leading up to Rams Seahawks will be on the status of Jared Goff, with screws inserted into his thumb, missing the final game of the year. We don't know if it's going to be him or John Wolford starting this game. Either way, both of these teams have formidable talent on each side of the ball, and I think do have the pieces to potentially make a deep playoff run, even if they're a little bit more inconsistent than they should be. When it comes down to it, even with LA's defensive talent, and I think Aaron Donald is still the very best player in the NFL on a relative basis at his position. I mean, always going to be a defensive player of the year candidate. It's just tough for me to take a banged up Goff or a backup over Russell Wilson. So the Seahawks may make this a little bit tougher on themselves than it needs to be, but I am going to have them taking the first step here in the playoffs. It's kind of funny because for most of his career, Drew Brees was playing with some pretty bad defenses, and now he has one, but his arm strength's teetering, and he's just trying to ride into the sunset with one more spectacular playoff run, much akin to what Peyton Manning did with the Broncos, and don't know if he's going to be able to truly put it together. Would certainly help if Michael Thomas was able to return and be healthy with that ankle issue. Then on the other side, you have Mitch Trubisky and this Bears team that is still solid defensively and has plenty of great stars on that side, but is mostly just Allen Robinson on the front end. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep pace in terms of the scoreboard, and the Saints could run away with this one if things break their way. In either capacity, able to take on the victory. back to our usual 4-game slate for the divisional round. First one going to be Ravens-Chiefs. This was the matchup that I wanted to see more than any other last year, and we couldn't have it happen in Baltimore, but now we could in Kansas City, with Arrowhead being one of the stadiums that's allowed fans in a limited capacity throughout the entire year. Nice outdoor environment, and these teams did play in week 3. Kansas City had just a spotless game from Patrick Mahomes. It was something like 27-10 at the half. They really jumped on Baltimore, and when you do that, there's not a lot that the Ravens can sort of put together playing from behind. They have weapons in Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews and Sindis Bryan and whatnot. That's not really the way this team is built to play. And when you give Andy Reid an extra week of game planning too, you also have to think he's going to have some good stuff schemed up once again, as he's always ready for those crucial contests. So, well, I love this Baltimore team almost as much as anyone, and if they were in the NFC, I very well may just push them into the Super Bowl, because I do think that highly of the Ravens. I'm not sure I can really take them over Kansas City coming off the bye right here. So this is not at all a knock on the Ravens. I think they're a contender in their own right, but I am going to take the Chiefs here to clinch the AFC Championship bid. If the Ravens were the team that got hot to close out the year, the corollary is Pittsburgh, who got cold starting 11-0 and then dropping 3 of their last 4, including 1 to this very Bills team and another to the Bengals playing with a backup quarterback. What the heck? I mean, you give Ben some time to rest and that'll help for a bit, but eventually you get back into that normal game week and routine, which is what it would be here in the second round, and sort of that advantage is lost. Bills will be able to stick Tre'Davious White on one of the Steelers' weapons, but with Deontay, Juju, Claypool, I do think they're going to be able to get their own on the offensive side of the game. It's just that we're having an approaching of a passing of the torch, and Josh Allen is a great young quarterback in this league. A lot of doubters for him coming out of Wyoming, but he has proven just about everyone who doubted him wrong, and now right here is going to rip that torch away from Ben Roethlisberger, and look, it'll be 2 young guns in the AFC with him taking on Mahomes. So the Packers had 3 losses this year, right? To the Vikings by 6, to the Colts by 3, and to the Buccaneers by 28. Is that just the weirdest outlier game, or do these teams match up in some really unique fashion? Tampa's got to love the run that they have, right? Because they've been hosed by the Saints, and now they get to play the Packers, who they were able to handle quite well during the regular season. They can get pressure up through the middle, which does a good job disrupting Rodgers, and they have Carlton Davis on the back end to give Devontae Adams at least a little bit of trouble. I think Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady is just great TV to begin with, and this could actually be a really good run for their money, as much as the Packers will have that edge playing with the bye right here. I am just going to give that nod to Green Bay to get them in the return, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if they actually were bounced in a first rounder here to a Tampa team that has a good formula to beat the Packers, also can get that run game going, which the Packers not so great against those power backs on the other side. So in the first half of the season, Russell Wilson threw for 300 plus yards in 5 of 8 games. Then as Seattle's defense started coming together, and admittedly the downfield passing efficiency probably wasn't quite sustainable, Seahawks turned back to their old styles, Pete Carroll got conservative, and Wilson didn't do it again the rest of the year. What this sets up is just games that feel inevitable to come down to 1 or 2 minute decisions at the very end, whether it's a pass interference call there or a defensive stop there, where the Seahawks are going to either be playing with a slight lead or just waiting to try to keep it one possession, trailing from behind and get the ball back and ask Wilson to finally do some heroics. In other words, this very much feels like a toss-up to me, and I do feel like the conservative coaching might burn them at some point. Sean Payton able to be a little more aggressive and go with some Taysom Hill package on 4th and 1 or whatever he needs to do. And I do think those slight plays very well may just tip this one in New Orleans' favor. So a close one for the Saints here, and we will take them to go ahead. Conference championship time, let's go. And I think Chiefs-Bills is the game that everyone really, really wants to see right now. So I hope it's able to come to fruition. We've got so many guys on both offenses. Tyreek and Kelsey are spectacular. For the Bills, Diggs, John Brown, Cole Beasley, Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox, a lot of guys. And we could see 8 different players score a touchdown. And I want to throw out the game that they had in the regular season because there were 347 total passing yards. And if these teams play again, each QB could throw for that on his own more likely than them totaling that range combined as teams. So very likely to be high flying, could easily turn into a track meet, who gets the ball last or wants to go for 2 to win the game type of situation. And it's kind of just a gut call for me that leans the way that I do. I feel great about what Buffalo's done building this team analytically around Josh Allen, surrounding their quarterback with the guys that he needs, and the fact that they're willing to just air the ball out as much as they need to. But you can pretty much say the same for the Chiefs, who, when things aren't going their way, will totally abandon the run and just turn things on throwing downfield, which is the most efficient way to play football in the modern NFL age. And I'm just going to have that gut call push me with Kansas City, but I want to see many more Mahomes versus Josh Allen battles in the decade to come as KC puts their Super Bowl 55 berth in. When the Packers played the Saints in the Superdome way back in September, both Devontae Adams and Michael Thomas were out. And the team still combined for 67 points. So if you thought the NFC side was going to be a respite in the scoring, rest assured, it's not happening. My conference championships have 4 of the top offenses in the NFL. And that game was especially important because it's what flipped the tiebreaker to the Packers side, being able to host at Lambeau here rather than being in the Superdome once again. I don't want to harp too much on the importance of the bye, but especially with these teams getting home field, and also with it just being 1 instead of 2, it's a significant edge for that one team. Also should be taking my L on Aaron Rodgers because I called him washed last year, and that's not to say that he didn't have a weaker year. It's very obvious that his play kind of spiked back up, but he was not washed. He's back at an MVP level, and when you compare Rodgers right now to where Breeze is at, they're just not on the same plane. And so when it comes down to it, and you throw that one with whatever snow, and knowing that the Saints are going to go with an additional round of brutality and games and spots that can trip them up and COVID tests and whatnot, you just have to give that edge to the team that has 1 fewer game in their path and the better QB. So Packers win this one at home, and we're going to be getting those ones trouncing through to have Chiefs-Packers in the Super Bowl. Quarterbacks run the league, so it's only fitting that Super Bowl 55 would pit the presumptive MVP, Aaron Rodgers would likely have my vote, against the most probable runner-up in Patrick Mahomes. But let's talk about aside from the QBs for a moment. So offensive supporting casts. I think that the Chiefs get a slight edge here in terms of their weaponry. The Packers' protection has been fantastic, but David Bakhtiari's injury obviously puts a dent in that. On the defensive side of the ball, you'd call these teams pretty even. I might give just a slight edge to the Chiefs, but it's certainly not a sharp one. And then in terms of the special teams and coaching, the Chiefs got to have the edge because Andy Reid is a game planner, is a mastermind, and I think that he's always going to get the nod over Matt LaFleur. So it'd be a little bit of heavy lifting for Rodgers to do, but if there's a season for him to do it, it's kind of putting that type of campaign together. However, when it comes down to it, I am not making my mistake betting against Pat Mahomes. I took the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Didn't happen. They bit me in the butt in 2020, and we are going to grab Kansas City again here in 2021. Aaron Rodgers can be the season-long MVP, but Patrick Mahomes will be the Super Bowl MVP as I'm taking the Chiefs to win Super Bowl 55. That'll do it for the full playoff bracket predictions, though. Chiefs over Packers, with Mahomes getting a back-to-back Super Bowl MVP award. Don't sleep on the Ravens, Bills, Bucks, and some of these other teams in what's going to be a wildly unpredictable playoff batch. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you spike a like, and do me a favor and share this video with a friend, family member, fan, whoever it may be. Really does mean a lot to me to get the support on these since we gear up hard for them every year. You can subscribe since we won't be flooding the inbox as well. Adjust the goodies and let me know in the comments section what you have for your Super Bowl matchup as well as the eventual champion. Thanks as always. Best of luck to everyone's teams. Enjoy the games, and I'll see Trevor Lawrence in a Jags uniform next season. I'm out. Peace.